There's a surprise every day. Josh, welcome to Redefine the Game. How are you feeling today?
I'm good, man. I'm glad to be here. I'm in Paris. The sun is shining finally. Spring is here. I'm happy.
You're happy. And are you the type of person that the mood comes or is a result of the weather outside, or there's no correlation?
You know, I like to think that I'm not until the sunny days arrive, and then it's like, oh, that I very much need the sun. Living in Salt Lake and West Texas, both see more than 300 days a year of sunshine. In Paris, it's the inverse. You probably get 65 days of sunshine, it feels like. So yeah, I think I'm doing fine. Then the sun comes out and I'm exponentially better. So maybe I'm good in the clouds and amazing in the sun.
Actually, I try to not be like my mood. Uh, I try that it's not like biased or a result of the weather what outside, but I feel that I'm just like you. I try not to be until the sun comes up and the mood totally changes. And normally it's
Yeah.
like energy, happy. So, um, you are mostly known by being the co-founder of Borderlands Running.
Yep.
For those of you who don't know, it's like kind of like this project that is rethinking how, um, like it's mostly media storytelling driven, right?
Yep.
Um, And one of the things that I really like about the project is that goes beyond the elite runners. I love that. And for that, congratulations, because I really, really, really feel that we need something, that we need something different like
Yeah.
that. But at the same time, you have another project in the pipeline. We are going there in a minute. But while we were preparing this conversation, you just shared some crazy stats.
Yeah.
I like to start with that. Um, in the US, he said, I think it was in the US, he said that there's like 14 million trail runners, right?
Yeah. 14.8 million.
Um, but only 20, 250K of these trail runners do ultras.
Yep. On any given year, that's how many registrations there were last I checked. That's my asterisk, like caveat. Like last I saw, 250 per year are signing up for trail races.
Ah, trail races. But uh, are those specific into ultras or
Yeah, I think it's we can drill down on the data from what is it, Ultra Magazine,
okay?
to see, but yeah, I think by and large it's safe to assume that any short trail race generally, not always, but will have some ultra component attached to it because ultra and trail running in America are fairly synonymous. Not
Hmm,
completely, obviously, but quite synonymous.
okay. Since the topic for today's conversation is redefining trail running, even though we don't have that many power, but we have ideas
Yeah.
and we have the passion for the sport. Looking to this number, so 14.8 million trail runners, and let's assume that these 250K annually, uh, they run ultras.
Hmm.
Um, Looking at brands and media, I believe, or what I feel is that these brands and media mostly focus on the ultra
Right.
uh, crowd.
Yep.
Is there something broken here? And I can and I can already just throw an example that happened two weeks ago with, for example, Chianti Ultra
Hmm.
Trail. They broadcast the 120K race, but so this happened on Saturday. On Sunday, we had the 27K, and there was no live stream.
Mm.
Is there anything broken here when we see mostly brands or media mostly focus on the ultra crowd?
Well, I think about like that. I don't think it's broken, but I think it's just in its infancy. And when you see a little kid trying to draw a picture. You see a little kid trying to stack blocks. They have these fine motor skills that don't exist yet. And so they draw with big strokes and it doesn't look like what they hoped that it would look like, or they can't stack blocks very high because they don't have the fine motor skills to build something, or I don't want to say articulate, maybe something nuanced. My point is that I don't think it's broken. I just think it's trying to figure out who it is. And the problem is if we just look at the American market, 14.8 million trail runners, defined as maybe someone who's just running once a month on the trail, down to 250,000. And let's put an asterisk on that and say, do your own research, confirm that number, call David Callahan at Ultra Sign Up and get the confirmation. Point is that it's a very low number. And then when you factor in this stat that I've heard is that for every race that's run, so 90% of the runners who run any given race have no idea and do not care who won the race they just ran. So if you go from 14.8 million total to 250,000 actually signing up for races, to 10% of that, let's say 25,000 who are even aware of who's winning the race, well, we're just missing out on a whole lot of people. But I think the reason that there's so much media around that elite version is because that audience that wants that is a very attentive audience. So to give the benefit of the doubt to everybody who's paying attention to the elite version, it's because there's an audience who's there to open their wallet for it. So they're going to pay. The sponsorships are valuable because, let's say, Free Trail does something, a pregame show, a trailgating thing for Black Canyons, and Gooder sponsors it. That's probably going to lead to some revenue for Gooder. So there's traditional pathways there. It's just that market size is so small of people who are paying attention. And we want to see that expand because that's valuable money coming into the market. However, 14.8 million people minus 25,000 aren't wildly interested. And now I'm not saying only 25,000 people in America are interested in the elite version of the sport, though that isn't a crazy number when you look at how many eyes are actually on the Western States live feed or the Cocodona live feed. Like, we get pumped, maybe 20,000, maybe 10,000 here. Then for the finish line, it's 65,000, 40,000. And that's global. So it's just not a ton of people compared to who's actually enjoying the sport. So is it broken? I don't think it's broken. I just think it's in its infancy and it's still trying to figure out how to make money. If you look at Big Alta, I'm not picking on Free Trail here, but if you look at Big Alta from a couple weeks ago, it's the race that Free Trail puts on in combination with a really great race organization on the West Coast, Daybreak. It didn't have the big mountain outpost coverage. It didn't have a big fancy finish line. I feel like that race was the expression of where trail running is actually at. And probably, I bet that turned a great profit, just guessing from my observation from a distance. So no, not broken, just in its infancy. And we don't know as an industry yet how to build media, how to build to garner, to get more attention from everybody else. Let's just say the other 14 million.
Okay. But just looking to the US, or because I don't have I don't have the numbers about like how many trail runners we have in Europe,
Yeah, I'd love to know that too.
because like this can be also a question. What's the biggest difference between what we see in the US and what we see, or what's happening in Europe? But I'm pretty sure that the same happens in Europe, where like only from the 100 people that do trail running, only like 10% know about those big names, and the others just go for the experience, the challenge,
Yeah.
for the idea of trail running being something like a lifestyle, or something that brings many benefits. So your answer leads me, and again, it's not because it's broken, but what do you think, based on your experience, what do you think that like brands, race organizers get wrong, or what do you think that it's missing about connecting to what we can call like the real trail running community that do the sport for the sport,
Yeah.
and aren't this core 10% uh um, that knows the big names and goes to get the medal or goes to break the record.
Yeah.
So what do you think that it's maybe it's not that the brand's media and race organizers get wrong, but what's missing in order to appeal or to be close to this real trail running community, to the others, to the other 90%?
Yeah, great question. I think the I think first thing to establish of rather than what's missing is what's there. Like what are we looking at? What are they doing? So if you the original Borderlands manifesto, which I wrote 3 years ago when I started Borderlands, and I still stand by it, is in the manifesto I talk about Messi. For you today, I'll talk about Ronaldo. Um,
Okay.
yes, you're welcome. I'm just kidding. No, we'll do it. We'll do it.
Obrigado, obrigado.
um, okay, so when whoever his main sponsor is sponsors Ronaldo, I'm going to watch Ronaldo play. He's going to have a great game. I'm going to respond to his great game by buying a jersey, by trying to get tickets to his next game, by getting on YouTube and watching his highlights. So the first step in that is that I get to consume his game. So I get to watch him play. And there's a ton of marketing that goes in that, a ton of money that goes into that. So you invest in Ronaldo, and let's say whoever it is, Adidas, Puma, whoever gives him $100 million. Well, they're looking to turn that $100 million into, $1 billion in sales off of him. So that's a traditional sports marketing. I think that's Nike probably started that. You put your stuff on the best athlete, and then the world sees the best athlete as they consume the media of that, and as a result, they then go buy that gear. So the outcome of Messi or Ronaldo having a great game is that we then spend money on something while sitting down and doing nothing. Okay, so this is the important part. So that's a traditional sports marketing. Where we're at with running and other soul sports is that when I see someone run, I get excited. Even if Walmsley has a great run, I don't respond by wanting Hokas. I don't. I respond by wanting to go run myself.
Yeah.
That's it. And in that manifesto, I said, given the opportunity to run, to watch somebody run or to run myself, even a 5K in the mountains, I will always choose the 5K alone in the mountains over what. I don't care who it is. I don't care if it's Killian. I don't care if it's Jim. I don't care if it's Bouillard, Chianti. I don't care if it's the three most recent winners of UTMB main event going head to head. I will choose to run every time. So that's what's broken. That's why media isn't able to capture that, because I think I represent that 99% of the people who yeah, this is cool. I'm stoked for Jim. I love Jim Walms. I'm for him as an American. It's like, my guy, finally we've got an American male that is showing up on the world stage. I'm so proud, but I don't respond to that by buying Hokas. I'll never buy a Wahoo bike. That's not how we respond, but that's how the sports marketing works. So that's what's in place, and that just misses. Who does that get? That gets the 10% of the 250,000 in America. And I'm exaggerating, but you get my point. Like, that just gets a very small number of the total chunk. So if that's what's there, what's missing? That's the hard part. I think that's where guys like, mutual friend Matt Trappy bring a lot of insight. Like, as a brand, how are you activating the world of runners? And I just don't know any other way other than in real life experiences. There is no digital experience that is satisfying, and for a brand to make the money to talk to the person who runs a trail once a month, who would love to belong to this global community, doesn't know how, doesn't even know it exists. That's what's missing. I think that's what a lot of us, Borderlands included, is we're trying to talk to those people.
So do you think that until now, uh, trail running was, because I still remember one conversation we had on LinkedIn through comments. It is what it is, but most of the people said that there's no enough money in trail running just to give this big push and to bring innovation, to bring
Yeah.
more people, to bring more brands. Because in the end, uh, like every time we have an event, we see always the same brands, which is totally understandable. So, what you're saying is that right now, because we always have the same brands, for example, the race organizers, the media need to obviously appeal to those brands, which works like kind of like this algorithm. You need, so like you somehow need to feed
Right.
this algorithm, um, and because you need to feed these brands and give these brands what they are asking you to do, um, instead of let's give the 99% of the trail runners what they really need. Because what I feel, um, is, for example, when we look at most of the podcasts that talk about the sport, when we look at most of the videos that are created about trail running, it's always about the same people. It's always about the same um,
Right.
trail runners, mostly elites. Where, for example, if we look at other solo sports, cycling, you start to see stories and content and challenges and in real life experiences that go beyond elite elite athletes. So what you're saying, and going back to your point or to your answer, is that we should move to the sport being controlled by brands and by the decisions that brands make, and start moving to let's listen to what those 99% trail runners want, their needs, their goals, their aspirations, their stories. And maybe we can start to change the compass.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's the tricky part. So, like, okay, I'm an obsessed fan of the elite version of the sport. So, I like that that's developing. So, I just want to put that on the shelf, and as my disclaimer, I like that it's developing the way that it is. It's just a small market, can't handle too many people. So over here, you know, I love, like, the rest of it to me is kind of, there's a few different buckets I'd put them in, but a lot of it is dirtbag culture, which is where I come from. And the elevator definition of that, the high level, is just, it's the people who just want to run. Like, most of the time up until just recently, I only ran in race shirts from previous races. I wasn't looking for a brand to wear. I didn't care what brand it was. I just, whatever piece of clothing is closest to me, I'm going to put that on and I'm going to go for a run. So, what does the rest of the running world need to develop? I mean, maybe develop's not the right word, but like, what is to the benefit of the rest of the running world? It's community in real life activation. Even me, who I love to run alone because it's the time of day that I process. I need to be in my own head for a while. The reality of when you run an ultra and you're struggling and you meet somebody new, and that bond that is created in that ultra is such a special thing. And often, yes, it's only unique to the ultra itself. That moment and that feeling is a thing that I think we would be a benefit to global trail runners if we could figure out how to turn the volume up on that and cultivate that experience more often. Now the chemicals that are firing and the bonding chemicals and everything that's happening in your body at that time, you can't recreate that so simply. But I don't know your politics. You didn't ask me my politics. We're not even talking about, we're talking about running, and like, that's the power of this, is that more connection built around running, and community is good. So that's what most of the running world, I think, is looking for, is this sense of belonging and connection. And running is a thing that we can come and just run together. I'm not saying it's going to heal the world. I don't know that I agree with the free trail. It's going to save the world, but it is meaningful to the rest of us, that connection that running cultivates.
Hmm. Um, now that you are in Paris,
Yeah.
do you feel the difference between um before going to the question, let me create this introduction to the question. Yesterday I was talking with Matt,
Hmm.
and one of the ideas that we shared is, when obviously we trail runners, we like to mostly run solo, but then we feel that looking at you, Josh, you are a trail runner. We are part of the same tribe, even though you are from the US, I'm from Portugal.
Right.
Uh, we are part of the same community, even though um, there's we don't have a brand that represents us, and we are part of this
Right.
brand
Yeah.
being a part of the community.
Yeah.
We are runners. We do running. We are trail runners.
Yeah.
So why I'm saying this? Because in some other sports, you when you think about a sport, you think about the brand.
Mm.
And we have so many good examples with like surf or skateboarding or even road running. And um, and these brands try to own the community.
Right.
I'm not sure if this is possible with trail running. Trail running is such grassroots dirt bag.
Yeah.
Like it's not only solo sport. It's a solo, a deep solo, because it's really about, just like you said, going out, process,
Yeah.
challenge ourselves, and in the races we kind of like meet other trail runners. So personally, I believe that it's to build or for a brand to own this trail running community, like for example, Free Trail is trying to do, especially on this
Yeah.
media approach. I think it's super difficult to become this brand that represents globally the trail running community.
Yeah.
What do you think? Do you think that it's possible to for a brand or for a project to own or to reflect these 90%, 99% of the people? Or trail running is more like this ecosystem where you have media, where you have trail running brands, the trail running clubs, and different uh, different projects appeal to different people, but in the end, we are all trail runners.
Yeah. I mean, I think for something that's global like that, I think that's what you're looking at is like it's an ecosystem. There's certain as brands are developing and they're getting more specialized in like in how they're branding and who they're going after as the market is growing. Brands like Satisfy, who've sort of led the way on a certain style of marketing, and Soar, who've led the way on certain styles of marketing. Janji, that those brands, the market size is large enough for you to get niche on how you market. So the way I think about that also is, and I owned coffee shops in Salt Lake City. I had to be very general with how I built those because my market size was small. So I had to be a coffee shop that cast a wider net and caught more people. I couldn't specialize. Now in Paris, there's a coffee shop next to me that's like coffee and records, and then there's one that's just down the way that's coffee and magazines, and they don't want your laptops in there because the market size is large enough that they can whittle out all of the people that don't want it. You can get highly specialized. So I think as the market grows, point being is that you it's an ecosystem, but I don't think that and the umbrella over all of it is that we will run on trails. I think that's I think that's it. I think it's the lowest common denominator. It's just that what we all have in common is that we love being on trails. But you can now kind of fit in and be like, hey, I'm a Soar runner. I'm a Satisfy runner. I'm a fill in the blank. I'm still a Nike guy. I'm a Hoka guy. Like and then when you specialize in that, you have a community of people who are kind of crossed over with you. Like the average person who wears normal shoes might have a certain mentality about the world and how the world should work. And when they see someone else wearing normal shoes, there's that instant click of connection. So again, as it grows larger, that allows us to have more niche and specialty. So I think we become, I don't want to say divided, but we become siloed, and not in a bad way, up with the people that we feel like are most like us. And so we've got now people who like to run, who like, Rourke's Motorhead, gear. Like, you got all these things that put you in the same deal. It's like, I really am connecting with these people. I've found my people. And I think that's my observation of what's happening.
Hmm. And looking to what's happening in other sports, like trail running, sorry, triathlon with PTO, or uh, soccer, football with the Kings League or the Bowlers League,
Yep.
or even like these more indie projects in basketball. Um, Looking at trail running as a business, or looking at trail running as an area where we need innovation. What's your opinion on this? Is it difficult based on the DNA of trail running as a sport comparing to other sports? Is it Do you think that it's difficult to do something similar to what's happening in other sports like triathlon, basketball, soccer, to replicate this in trail running?
Yes. I mean, and it's primarily because still so much of those are driven around media, at least from where I'm sitting, media coverage of the events that are consumed by people sitting at home watching TV. So I mean, I love Tour de France. I liked watching elements of it. I never totally understood it until Netflix puts out this incredible series, and finally I start to understand it. But I have some friends who've been watching it, since they were, in the early '80s when they were kids. Um, but still, what those all have in common is that you can sit at home and watch them, and they're enjoyable. I was talking with a gentleman that you would really like, and then I need to look up the name of his company. I hate that I can't remember. It's in Japan, and he is working on. So the most watched sporting event in Japan is a specific marathon in Japan, and what he's
Excellent.
trying to do is replicate this idea. Tempo. It might be called Tempo. I
Okay.
really want to find this out for you because I think you'd like him. His name's Sebastian. Um, he is trying to like take these ingredients that have made that so watchable, and these athletes, when they're doing well in that marathon, are so valuable to brands. And then how do you expand that up and bring these Japanese athletes to the world using this marathon as an on ramp to get there? I in talking to on 10 Junk Miles, he was trying to sell me hard on Comrades, and he's like, you'd be blown away by how well Comrades is shown on TV in South Africa. So we don't have a ton of examples like that. I mean, I love watching Olympic marathon. Our major issue to being like any of those that you just named is that sitting at home on your couch watching it on TV. Trail running is a long ways away from that being super compelling to anybody who wouldn't be into it even if the coverage wasn't there. So I was way into when all you had to do when all you could do is follow I Run Far on Twitter and keep refreshing and what's happening at Western States, what's happening at Hard Rock. I don't know that they captured anybody new by going to the live coverage. I could be way wrong, but I don't know, because the live coverage still requires a lot of grace toward the coverage, because it's hard to make a compelling to Cocodona to do a 5 days of coverage compelling. That's hard. It's hard to even do Western States 14, and if the winners are going to win in 14 hours, if David Roach beats the course record this year, even if he gets sub 14, or that's still a long time. So that's just I think that's our major obstacle. Baseball in America was struggling a lot with TV, still struggles because the games are going 5 hours. So they had to reduce the amount of time that between pitches to make it go faster. They knocked off, I don't know the exact time, a lot of time to make it more interesting. So if baseball, America's pastime, is losing viewers because of a 5 hour event, trail running is just at 12 hours, 15 hours, 6 days. That's our problem. And
So
I don't think it's a bad problem. It's just like that's our let's call it just an obstacle. That's our obstacle. We've got to figure out how to make it compelling.
that's why we are here to redefine trail running. So
Yes.
this is a good starting point. So would you say that what's missing in our sport? And I'm pretty sure that let's hope that many people listen to this. But what I feel that is that sometimes uh, this is what makes trail running amazing. Um, you have the group of people that really wants trail running to stay grassroots, let's forget about media and
Yeah.
big brands and big money because it's working the way it is. But looking at trying to, because in the end, the main question could be, is organizing a trail running race or like growing this trail running brand, is it like a sustainable business,
Yeah.
So, but my question was like, do you think that what's missing in trail running is to make it more engaging, media friendly, customer, like this fan that might be a trail runner or not, but to make it more watchable
Mm.
on television? uh is this key to make trail running even more um like a global sport?
Yeah. I mean, I think the closest thing we have right now is Golden Trail,
Yeah, Golden Trail Series. Yeah.
crushing the media side of things. It's beautiful. It's stunning. It's stunning to look at. It's the American mind cannot fathom, and understand on average even still with that beautiful coverage, like it's just still not the thing. And I just, on some levels, is it a square peg in a round hole? Just trail running just isn't meant to be what we are kind of talking about here. Like it's maybe just not meant to be that elite thing, like in terms of massive scale. Now it's valuable right now. It is probably growing. I'd love, someone like Jamil Curry or, the board of Western States or, someone out there's going to be better suited to say, hey, here's the state of things in terms of the growth within the consumption of media when Mountain Outpost covers an event and they have the drones and they have the bikes and they're going for it. But on some levels, like again, that's only 0.001 of the existing trail runners. So it's a massive market. It's a spread out market. And in the end, we can refine this consumption model, and I think the only reason we're talking about it is because that's what it seems like the brands lean in entirely. They lean in entirely by default to doing what Nike innovated with putting your stuff on the best athlete, win on Sunday, sell on Monday. And I don't think win on Monday, sell on Monday is working right now for brands. So as brands, we put so much money into our athletes, into our teams, which good for them because I want to watch them run faster. And so they got to have more time to train. And now they're running faster. So good for them. However, are they getting the return? If they win on Sunday, if Jim wins on Sunday, are we selling more Tectons on Monday? I don't think that we are. Hoka, chime in and let me know if we actually are. So what actually is selling more stuff? Well, we're distracted by the awe-inspiring efforts of our elite athletes. That Killian is still going hard, still in the race at 40 or however old he is. Like, man, that's inspiring. One of the greatest of all time. And to see Jim at Chianti, all of that stuff, so interesting, so inspiring, but just not. And the brands are defaulting spending the money there when in reality, if the goal is to sell another shoe or to build brand, I don't know if that's the place to do it because that's only a fraction of a fraction of
Mm.
where the eyes and ears are.
Yeah, more of the same, right?
Yeah. And it's not bad. Again, I'm going to pull it off the shelf because it's so important to note. I love it. Like I'm in that fray that loves to obsess over refreshing X or whatever you call it now but where I Run Far is doing the coverage. Like I am that person. So I just want to say I am that person, put it back on the shelf as the business mind. It's like, gosh, there's 14 million more people just in America that we could be talking to in a more effective way.
Mm. Who is, in your opinion, getting it right now? Because from the notes that I'm taking, like yes, this what brands are doing and what media companies are doing on focusing more on the elite, uh, it's kind of working.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they are still doing.
Yeah.
But what I hear is that we need something else.
Right.
Maybe there are some other pieces of the puzzle that can also add value to what's working already.
Yeah.
Um, in your opinion, when we are trying to make it different, some brands are already zigging, some others are starting to zag.
Uh-huh.
Uh, who's getting it right? Who's starting to zag, in your opinion?
Yeah.
And by the way, if you want, this is the time where you can brag
Ah.
and and talk about the project that you are launching in.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, so to get to it in an honest way, I was honestly, this is what I was going to say, is that right now, one of the interesting things that's happening, it's been evolving over the last couple of years, is when shoe companies, footwear companies wanted to get in front of their customer, they would do activations through local run specialty, because that was the way to activate and get in front of the person who's opening their wallet to spend the money. Uh, and I think I'm guessing that model was fine. I don't think it was broken. However, the explosion of the run club movement all of a sudden created a much more effective way for brands to get in front of the end user, because in a run club you've got all of these great emotions, this fondness that's circulating among the group. We love to run together. We are aligned on how we see the sport. We're aligned on how fast we run. We're aligned on when we can run. We're aligned, and all that by default, it means we have maybe similar jobs. We live in a similar area. Like all of this alignment, all of this goodwill. Well, now Diodora, shout out because their new shoes look awesome. Diodora can come in and say, "Hey, XYZ Run Club, let me I want to. I'll pay you some money. Let us show up and let's put our shoes on all your runners and let's go have an event so you can see what these are like." Run clubs are Instagram heavy, they are visual heavy, and so they're getting a ton of user generated content. And that run specialty just didn't have the infrastructure for that. Run Club was built around aesthetic and beauty and convenience and affinity, where the run store specialty just can't compete with that. So the run clubs are now how brands, I think, more so get to the runners, to the end users, to the people who pay full price for the gear. And this is what, so then with what I'm building right now is Wilder. It's what it's called, WYLDER, releasing this week. It's been a 2 years and 3 month project that I've been working on, and the whole idea is essentially to work more with in real life, like enable in real life activations even more. Like, so if I were to download Wilder, I create an account, and I'm going to be visiting Portugal, the city that you live in, and I can go on there and look on there while I'm traveling, and I can say, hey, are there any run clubs or are there any group runs happening today there that I could jump in on? If I'm a run club manager, I can start my run club on the app. It's got tools for me. It caters to me as the run club manager. It allows me to chat. We can coordinate our runs that way, our routes, everything. So the idea is just to take everything that's happening in the run club world and just make it even easier to activate in real life, because this the most critical differentiator between the soul sports and soccer, football, baseball is this element of belonging. And what I think is what I want, my hope with Wilder is that it facilitates belonging. So let's say on one level, you've got a lonely runner who's looking for some friends. Like, this is a great way to find affinity day one, other people that like to run. If you're a runner who runs alone, but you're nervous to run alone, this is a great way to find a group of people to run with. It's community, it's belonging. And so that's what I'm looking to facilitate with Wilder.
Mm. While you were where where were the pain points that led you to build Wilder come from? Like, because while I was listening to you, I was visualizing, for example, the Strava clubs.
Mm-hmm.
And even though Strava is, I would say, the app that most of us that do sports use,
Yeah.
when they and again, I love Strava.
Yeah. Same.
I don't use it much,
Yeah.
but what I miss, especially when people say that, oh, if you want to be part of this community, you need to go on Strava.
Yeah.
And even though they are in the last years, they did some changes with the Strava clubs, and they implemented some new features. I feel that to run a club on Strava, it hurts. It's kind of it's not easy. Like you miss some features.
Yeah.
So were some of the pain points that led you to come from to build Wilder came from Strava, or
I mean, a little bit. I should say, where what Strava really owns is what runners do when they're alone. So they have group features, of course they do. It's a feature-rich app. You can spend hours going through it and finding new features. It's an unbelievable ecosystem and environment of opportunity for a runner. But when you think of Strava, Strava is best at things like nostalgia, you know, keeping your old runs in there, your old races, going and comparing them. So it's got the nostalgia piece to it. It's got, fitness tracking, like you see how much better you're getting over time. Like I wear a Koros to run in, but I don't ever look at the Koros app. I only have the Koros app, so it'll send it to Strava because Strava houses, even my Garmin days are housed in Strava, So Strava owns what the individual runner does. My dream with Wilder is that it would own what runners do when they're together. And so for me, the pain point to answer your question was just that, is a $5 billion global, running app market, is no one is catering to that person who wants to run with other people. And there's no one catering to like activation of in real life, like making in real life easier. And I'm here in Paris. I run alone along the Seine. It'd be fun to run with a group, and I see groups running. Well, I don't even know how to, like, how did they all know when to meet up, and how did they all know when to start running? Like I know how they started. They said, let's go. But like, how did they all know that they were going to meet at the Seine at 8 a.m. on Saturday morning? Like, where's that happening? How does someone get into that? It's Instagram. It's maybe through a run specialty. And so the pain point was just like, hey, this is like eliminating all the necessary steps to find a run club. And then for the run club manager, what currently takes 5 apps to do, which is, you got to have a map to send out your starting point. You've got to have a map. You got to have a link that sends the route. You got to have, if you're trying to take RSVPs to figure out who all is going to be there, messaging, all of it. So Wilder takes those 5 apps and turns them into one for the run club manager and the run club logistics piece. So you've got a solution for run club managers to make just operating your run club life easier. And then you've got solutions for runners to find run clubs and to belong easier.
so I feel that somehow you are rethinking how runners connect with each other.
Yeah.
So somehow you are already starting to redefine
Yes.
the industry.
Keyword.
Uh, do you know or are you enjoying the work from any other brand that is trying to, again, catering to the other 99% of trail runners, or trying
Yes.
something different beyond going or beyond this elite 1%? Are there any other examples that
Yeah. I mean, it's hard right now. I'm so hard to please in this area because of the type of runner that I am. To me, all running items are tools to get to go do the thing that I want to do. So, I mean, I would say huge respect to Satisfy and what they're building and the investment that they've taken on and who they've hired to then go do that. Are they really knocking out in real life? Which to me, I think is the key. I don't know. I mean, they're crushing it out in our VIPA country of, Western United States. Um, who is activating communities the best, which I think is who that answer is. I don't know. Do you see anybody that's just activating communities really well, meaning getting people together in real life?
uh yeah, well, yeah, some brands and also some apps. I see Rana
Yeah.
uh is doing a great job. Well, they hired, or they have the former community manager for Tracksmith, who
Oh, really?
they were doing an amazing job, Louis. So he was the former community manager that now joined Rana as the country manager, the US country manager. So I
Okay.
think I see that they are doing a good job. I see like you know this British company Represent.
I don't.
They are also doing a great job with running clubs.
Okay, I'll
Maybe
check
this
them
is
out.
interesting for Wilder.
Yeah.
Uh, they are in this intersection between like running and lifestyle. So I think that they are doing a
Hmm.
great job. You said
Okay.
Satisfy. I see Bandit running a
Yeah.
super good job
Yeah.
during trail running in general. Uh, yeah. Um,
I think
well,
Believe in the
maybe.
Run as a media. I think there's some media outlets that are activating the community really well, and that's why they're valuable to brands. Because
Mm,
Believe in the Run, they don't make products, but they don't make shoes, but they shoe reviews site and all that sort of stuff. When they do events at marathons, like 1,000 people will RSVP and come join them.
yeah.
So I think
So
places like that do a good job.
would you say that in order for brands to start somehow like redefining the sport and also having this competitive advantage, they need to start thinking beyond performance and start building this like full lifestyle of a trail runner, which means not just racing shoes and elite sponsorships, but bringing a new way to connect with their potential customers, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a classic discussion of branding, in my opinion. If the definition of brand is emotional connection with your target audience, like and evoking emotion and connecting with them emotionally, and all of that leading to trust, um, brands. That's what I think brands need to lean into: is how do you build trust? And a lot of times you can build trust through features, through like, okay, if you go look at Soar Running as an example, who's trail and road, you know they are very expensive items, but they're high quality, and their marketing is not just our features. What's crazy is that their features and the technology and their clothing is really, 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 really great, but they don't lead with those features. They lead with this evocative sort of emotional branding of these very fit runners, fast runners, aspirational sort of looking people. And within that, they've built this sort of, as we'd say, tribe or something like that. That's called their people together. But in terms of what we need to do is that more brands need to have incredible features, but not lead with the features. Because
Mm,
if you have great features, that's not necessarily going to make me want to come to your, if you do a pop up shop
yeah.
in Paris, if you got great features, I may not come there. But if you've got this incredible brand and this emotion that you've built trust with me on, like, I'm going to go out of my way to find you. I think that's, to use Satisfy as the example. They've built a lot of trust through their consistency of messaging, their consistent visual messaging. And if they did a pop up in Paris, close to their office, like, that'd be, man, I'd go to that because I trust them.
If you had uh, to list or to create a summary of kind of like a playbook
Mm,
for a brand, because obviously we know that we can't appeal to everyone.
right.
It's impossible,
Yep.
especially in trail running where like we are all so different. Being a solo sport, this is what we expect. But if you had to create a list or a summary, kind of like a playbook for a brand that
Yep.
wants to serve a specific group of trail runners,
Yeah.
what would be the features of
Yes.
of that playbook?
Okay. So step one, it's hard to know. It's often easier to know who you don't want to be than it is to know who you want to be. So I would first make a list. If you can't fully articulate who you want to be, and even if you can, start with a list of people or brands that when you are fully firing on all cylinders, who you would like to upset.
Like this anti-vision.
Yes. So if I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, okay, as I'm trying to grow my podcast, who do I want to be? Who do I want to be? Who do I want to feel bothered by my success? And not in a bad way. I'm not. It's just like it helps me think through. Like, okay, there's this podcast over here. If he hears that all of a sudden I'm doing well, I want him to be a little bit annoyed. That helps me, because if you aren't upsetting somebody, if somebody doesn't hate you, nobody will love you. That is, I think, one of the most critical pieces. So you've got to know, who do you want to bother? I mean, I'm not trying to cultivate hate or division in the world, but I'm just saying, like, think of it as this thought exercise of, if that person's upset with me, I like that. I don't know. So then does that tell you who's on the other end of who you really want to go after? But you've got to be willing to be annoying to certain groups of people
Mm.
in order to be attractive to the people that you want. If you're just in the middle, vanilla, people may be kind of into you, but no one's going to love you, and no one's going to obsess over you. No one's going to go out of their way to find your pop-up. So step one is be okay with upsetting people, identify the people you want to upset, because then you're going to really be attractive to some people over here.
Okay. Step two.
I mean, step two for me, it's always build your adjectives. Like, what are the things? So my background's in PR. So I think through adjectives. Like, unfortunately, this is the reality. Even the smartest among you, when you think of a brand, the good brands, they seed language into your brain for how to talk about them. So create the adjectives that you want people to use when talking about your brand. Like, this isn't like name it and claim it, manifest it, go in the world. It's just name the 3 adjectives that you want people to say or when they talk about you. And then you build your language, all of you build your persona, you build your language, you build your marketing materials where you're seeding that language into their brain, so that when they talk about it, they become ambassadors of your brand naturally and in a way that you have control over. Because no matter what, so if the branding truth is that everything communicates something and you are leaving some of that to chance, then the customer is going to take it and own it themselves. And unfortunately, all customers believe that they're owning it themselves. Good brands are not letting letting the end user define anything on their own. They're defining everything. Everything communicates something. So if you don't go into it with that truth that everything communicates something, your target customers are going to define it for you, and you're not going to like it. So build the adjectives and then execute around those adjectives.
Before we wrap up,
Yeah.
I'd love to ask what like 2 or 3 more questions. But
Sure.
so the first one is, take into account that the main topic of this conversation is redefining trail running. What do you feel that media companies, brands, running apps, what's what does it to redefine trail running mean to you? Like, what brands, what media companies, what running apps need to do in order just to, again,
Yeah.
maybe trail running doesn't need to be redefined, but in order to go somewhere, in
Yeah.
order, like, what would you say that you would like to see as a trail runner, as someone that is involved in the community, as someone that has businesses around the sport?
Yeah.
What would you like to see that makes you feel, this is going somewhere?
Yeah, I think a democratization of the trajectory of the sport is how it needs to be redefined. Right now, there are gatekeepers in this sport that have their own vision, and they are self-proclaimed gatekeepers, and they are protecting it to be simply what they believe it should be. And they have not only, that's not necessarily that they have the power, it's that they have more time, because most of us have jobs. So they have more time, they're leaning into the industry as well, and then they have proclaimed themselves gatekeepers. And so that they believe that they are the definition of what trail running is, should be, and where it's going. And those, if I could say anything that needs to be redefined, it's that the people should overthrow, the bullshit gatekeepers. That is my biggest frustration and passion in this industry, is that The reason that we're only talking to 25,000 people, 40,000 people, it's because the self-proclaimed gatekeepers tell us that that's the way to go. And so at some point we realize that we don't need them, or that they can have their world, but don't tell me what trail running is. Don't tell me what's possible. Don't tell me what's allowed. An example of a gatekeeper that we don't have control over is the Forest Service in America. We're told we don't have control. No one's really out there trying to lobby to try and increase the number of people who are running trail races. In America, they tell us that it's awful for the environment. Well, I think Europe is far more environmentally conscious and aware. And I just ran a race through the Parisian forest with 14,500 runners.
Echo Trail?
Yes, Eco Trail Paris was 14,500 runners. And in America, we're worried that 121 runners running through Hard Rock is bad. I'm not saying, actually, I don't care. Like it's that sort of gatekeeping. It's that the Forest Service says it, and then the people who are in charge of these events are like, yeah, it's good for the environment. We're telling you what's good for the environment. Don't look over in Europe where they have solved it to a degree to have larger events. To me, the thing that needs to be redefined is that we either need to stop listening to the gatekeepers or find a way to make them less relevant.
Josh, you're going to be canceled for this.
But then the people so this is a good example. Some people will dislike it, but no one will like you if no one dislikes you. I'm comfortable with being disliked if it's surrounded by a vision and trajectory to go somewhere that I'm passionate about, which is anti-gatekeeping.
You are following your own playbook, right?
Yes. Yeah.
um, um, in 5 years, let's go beyond a little bit. Like in 5 years, what's something about trail running that you feel that will be completely different?
The slice of the pie will the pie will be larger. And so we're going to be right now, so many people are competing for the same attentive eyes and ears, the 100,000, the 200,000 eyes and ears in America. You're going to get to the point where it was like this with the food and beverage scene in Salt Lake. When I first started coffee, we were the first specialty coffee roaster in Salt Lake City aimed at scale. And so everybody who was interested in specialty coffee, I had to get them. I had to go after them, and they were mine. I was going to get them. And other coffee roasters opened up, and we're playing this zero-sum game where I had to go, like, if you stopped buying my coffee, you bought Blue Copper coffee, and now you're gone. So the mentality had to be like, okay, well, let's grow the number of people who are interested in specialty coffee so that we can all have our niches within this great community of specialty coffee in Salt Lake City. I think 5 years from now, there'll be less people fighting for the same audience because entrepreneurs will be coming in and targeting niches that are large enough to sustain businesses. Like, again, using Satisfy again, they've targeted a niche. That niche has become large enough to sustain the business. So I think 5 years from now, it's just a much larger pie, and there's going to be a lot more room for a lot more people.
Okay. So like that kind of also complements the answer of we don't need those gatekeepers.
Yes.
That's number one. Number two, the pie will be larger, and that's number two. And number three, we need entrepreneurs.
Yes.
It's like kind of like this new brand builders with a new that might bring a new fresh um approach to the sport.
And those entrepreneurs need to come in and not worry about the gatekeepers, not worry about kissing the ring of the gatekeepers. That's the problem. People will come in and be like, okay, I've got to go to this person and this person, make sure that these people like me. And if these people don't like me, in order for these people to like me, I've got to express my concept a certain way. So entrepreneurs coming in and not caring. Prime example being Nick Bear. He came into Ultra and it was just like, hey, you didn't get permission from the right people. And you're bringing all these like ripped, like muscly people and all of these like, frail upper bodied ultra runners like us. We're like, wait, what are you doing? You're ruining our sport with all these people. Like, we need more Nick Bears coming in and just like not asking permission, showing up at Leadville, doing a documentary on it and owning it. That frustrates and destroys the gatekeepers. That's what I want.
Nick Bear, if you're listening to this, we need you. So
thank you, Nick Bear. I'm not your target demo, but I celebrate what you did and what you are doing.
We need rebels. We need rebels. My friend, in this is the only kind of like script question I
Okay.
had for you, and this is more like a funny thing that I'd like to challenge you.
Okay.
In one sentence or less,
Okay.
what's the most underrated trail running brand right now?
Okay.
You can say Wilder.
I can't. I say Wilder, Borderlands. My mind goes to product, but I'm trying to keep it less than one sentence. So you got me here on that. The most underrated, most potential naked innovation sports.
Naked innovation. Oh, I didn't see that coming.
So I have been working with them. So there's the asterisk on that. I just believe that because such a great product at such a great price. Um,
Okay.
Again, I'm working with them, so there's that asterisk. But I'm only working with them because I freaking love the belt.
And yeah, okay. So we are going beyond on the this one sentence. We should and since we are talking about redefining trail running,
Yeah.
I would love to know your opinion about nutrition. But that would lead to a second episode because
My opinion about what?
nutrition,
Oh,
like nutrition brands that appeal to trail runners and that we see on aid stations, and you
yeah.
see those
I could
uh
talk forever. So yeah, let's schedule another one.
yeah, a second episode, because since I was not expecting you to say naked, but that's interesting.
Yeah.
So second question: what's one piece of gear you swear by?
Mm. Um, the shorts that I've been wearing. When I moved to Europe, I only brought one pair of shorts. My goal when we moved here was I just wanted as few clothes as possible, but I brought one pair of shorts, and it was their Path Projects shorts. I wore them for my 100 miler last year. I've worn them for almost every single training run for the last year. I wore them during Paris Eco Trail. I will, if assuming there's a race here called 2T2M next weekend. I'm hoping to go run 20 kilometers, and then I'll wear those shorts also for Paris Marathon. And I just love them. They're holding up. Like, that's the gear I swear by. That Path Project, I'm center of the target, another company that I have worked with, but I'm the center of the target because they look nice, but man, are they performance driven.
Durability at its best.
Yes.
What's your guilty pleasure post race meal?
Probably the same as my pre-race, which is pizza.
Oh, pre-race
Yeah, I'm
pizza.
still the dirtbag guy. I haven't dialed nutrition. Like, I still come from the era where Dean Karnassus was ordering pizzas while on a long run, or or Jen Shelton was, drinking a beer post race. I'm at the point I despise alcohol post race. Just my body doesn't want it, but still I'm gonna
Me
go
too.
junk food.
Okay. What's one word to describe the future of trail running?
Um, Possibility.
I see that like as a punchline of a brand.
Yes.
Possible.
Oh, totally. I was going to say belonging. Belonging is the punchline of Wilder, but I like possibility because, assuming we play our cards right as an industry, what's possible is absolutely insane.
Yes, we can. Last one. What's a hot take you have about the sport that most people would disagree with?
Mm. Hot take. Um, that Western states truly could have more runners on the field if they actually had put some effort into it since 1984. And Europe has proven that you can put a lot of people on a trail. Okay.
Let's see if this brings some good arguments
Yeah.
to continue with this conversation.
Yeah.
Josh, this was like I was expecting.
Good.
Truly, truly, truly awesome. Before we go, like, what's next for you?
Yeah. So, Wilder, I don't know when you're releasing this, but Wilder will be available on all app stores. We're doing a lot. It's going to take some consumer education to really wrap your mind around it. I think it's intuitive. I think it's beautiful. My partners that I brought on are excellent. We've got Wilder coming out. Borderlands CC is developing all the time. Like I've just put out a massive amount of content over the last 3 years. And so I'm trying to index all that so you can go there and rifle through it and find all the stuff that's best for you. My race in Salt Lake City on May 31st, open range races that I put on there. I got a trail running league coming, a competitive trail running league that we're working on. So a lot going on, but just borderlands.cc is the headquarters of it all.
So borderlands.cc website, also on Instagram, right?
Yes. Yeah. Run Borderlands on Instagram.
Okay. And if people want to follow you mostly on LinkedIn, I would say.
Yeah, I do a lot on LinkedIn where I'm talking about business related to running or business kind of related to anything.
Okay. Josh Rosenthal.
Yep.
My friend, thank you so much for being such an amazing guest.
Yeah, of course.
I was really, normally we listen to have no expectations, but taking into account like from all the conversations we had, I was really looking forward for this one.
Yeah, man. Me too. I really appreciate you and everything that you're doing, and thanks for having me.
5 out of 5. Thank you so much. Let's keep in touch. I'm really looking forward to see what's coming. You have my word that I will push as much as possible and let everyone know about Wilder. And let's see if in the future we can schedule a second conversation. Josh, thank you so much. Obrigado.
Love it. Thanks, man. Have a good day.